package in the mail, MSX games from Japan. Collecting without fail those shoot 'em ups, and that's the plan. He doesn't just collect them, he also codes them too. Join us and we'll go on electric adventures with you.
Hey YouTube, Electric Adventures here with my February channel update for 2022. The months tick by. A couple of days late doing this one because I've been very busy at work. My direct boss, because our Australian borders are open now, finally got to go back and see his family. He's actually from South Africa, but his family's in Vietnam. So I've been, doing his job as well as mine. And also the news that I only just got yesterday is apparently he's considered life and everything like that, and he's decided not to come back. So it's going to be very interesting for the next few months, and we'll just have to see what happens. Anyway, that's work stuff. Yes, I do work in the computer industry in a role. So lots of other pickups. Not very many of them video game related. There are some, and retro computer maybe, but lots of film stuff, just by circumstance and things like that. So the first thing, I said I'm doing them in the order that I got them. The first thing is I finally got to see James Bond 007 No Time to Die. Did not have a chance to see it at the pictures. It still is actually going at the pictures, so maybe. We do have COVID and COVID spread down here, so it's just, I love going to the movies and everything like that. It just hasn't been the appropriate time and place to go to them. And we're also busy life, lots of kids and things like that. So we do have a projector and screen, so I've watched this on the projector. I haven't actually watched the 4K version. We can only watch the Blu-ray version on the projector. Nothing wrong with that. 4K one I can only watch on my 4K TV. I really enjoyed this movie. I'm not going to say too much for the people that haven't seen it, but I believe it's a good end to Daniel Craig's run of James Bond. I think they did a very good job. It was a very entertaining movie. Obviously, fairly long sit time, but reasonably well paced and everything like that. So did enjoy it. Would have liked to have seen it on the big screen though, of course, but I had my stereo cranked up as high as we could and watched it on the projector, so reasonable version of the cinema at home, so lucky to have that. So this took a while for me to get that. And there's another movie that I haven't seen, which is the Spider-Man movie. Several of my daughters have seen it and basically keep on saying, "Dad, you've got to see the Spider-Man movie," because they're desperate to talk to me about it. But they know we don't like spoilers and talking about things, so haven't seen that one either. And the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness one, seen the clip of that one. That one looks really good. There's actually lots of interesting movies coming up. You've got the new Jurassic World movie, and the Harry Potter Universal one, the Strange Beasts one. Actually, I only saw that clip earlier today. They all look really good. I really do like my movies, fantasy and science fiction. Yes, I could probably just devote a whole thing to just talking about that. Maybe I should do an occasional episode where I just talk films and TV. Now, I got some more Laserdiscs this month. Now, this is the thing. I am not actively collecting Laserdiscs and haven't actually got any for ages, but obviously last month, well, the month before that, I found that one random Laserdisc when I went to basically an antique store. And then the next month, one of my friends said, "Hey, Tony, you collect Laserdiscs." That's where I got the Back to the Futures and the Goonies and all those sort of things. Or another guy here in Australia, he has a bunch of Laserdiscs he sells. Now, they're pretty much all exclusively Japanese releases. They are in English, but they have subtitles, and it depends on the title where those subtitles are placed. Some of them just have them below the screen, which is great. Some of them it does intrude over the film, but after you watch them for a little while, you don't notice as much. So not the perfect versions by any means, but they're also not very expensive. So once again, I am not actively collecting. So these ones were only $10. So, oops, first one, I have them in the wrong order. And I haven't sat down and watched this for ages, and I have actually watched this already since we got it, and it's none other than the first Battlestar Galactica movie. And I sat down, watched it with the family, and they actually enjoyed it as well. It's a 2-disc one, so it's got a bifold thing. The art in the middle is not very interesting. This is only for, sometimes the Japanese ones aren't very interesting on the inside, sometimes they are. The covers aren't too bad. So Battlestar Galactica. Now the next one is the second Battlestar Galactica movie, which is the next, so that was the first 2 episodes of the TV show edited into movie form, and this is the second one edited into movie form. So it's Battlestar Galactica, the Cylon Attack. So this is, obviously haven't watched this one yet, it's only 1 disc, so it's a little bit shorter. I believe this is the one where they encounter another Battlestar called the Pegasus, and I haven't seen this one for such a long time, so that'll probably be next on the watch list. And the next one we have watched, and watched it with my daughter, that is my youngest daughter, who's in grade 10 at the moment, is actually really interested in science, and we're talking about time, and I said, and this is what sparked getting this whole lot of Laserdisc, is none other than H.G. Wells' Time Machine. And it's actually really interesting, the things you watch, especially when you're watching with your daughter. Like, as an example, Tom Baker's Doctor Who scarf looks to have been inspired by the one that's being worn in one of the characters in this movie, which I hadn't actually noticed before. And there's all sorts of little things. So, like, even the intro sequence where you go around the room and see lots of clocks and they're all going off at once and everything like that. Obviously, Back to the Future borrowed from that as well. So the Time Machine, it's still, obviously it is a very old movie, but it is still actually quite interesting to watch. I don't mind the more modern one, but this is still obviously the absolute classic, and a really good copy and really good version too, so I quite enjoyed that one. And the next one, this is one of my favourite old classic sci-fi movies, and it's none other than Logans Run. So I sort of started out looking, I saw that they had the Time Machine, and I thought, right, well, that's, I'll get that because that's $10. I believe I might have picked this next, and then I got the Battlestar Galactica ones. So it's got this Japanese insert in the back, which I'm taking out. I haven't watched this copy yet. Oh yeah, and that's all the Japanese badging is just added stuff. So it is just a Western copy. So this one mightn't even have Japanese subtitles, which would be good. So that'd be good. Logan's Run really is an awesome classic sci-fi movie about future societies and things like that, and it is really well done and quite watchable nowadays. Obviously, some aspects of it have dated, but it hasn't dated as much as some other movies, and I still quite enjoy watching that one. So looking forward to watching that. And then that probably would have been enough, but I checked in with another section of box sets and I found this. It's quite heavy. I'm sorry, my back and shoulder are stuffed again at the moment. This is going to be very difficult for me to hold up. Okay, this is Star Trek The Complete Collection 25th Anniversary. So it's a lovely hard box set, and it includes all 6 original series movies, so they're all there, and a Star Trek 25th Anniversary documentary. So I've watched the documentary. Just take that one out to show you. And I do remember watching this in the 1991 was the 25th anniversary. I do remember watching that back in the day. It does include some other little extras as well. There's a usual care and maintenance of Laserdisc, and then there is this complete collection brochure and book that goes through each of the movies. Now I've also watched the first movie again now off these laserdiscs, and they're very good. And the first one, widescreen, the Japanese titles are down the bottom, so completely away from the thing. So all the rest will be the same. So definitely no negative with getting the Japanese release of this box set. I know I do like my Star Trek, especially my original Star Trek. So looking forward to watching that. I watched the first one by myself, although the family came home at the end and actually watched the end bit, and I said, yes, you've missed all the boring drawn out bits and you're into the interesting bits. And the next movie is Star Trek 2, which I'm sure they will want to watch with me. Obviously that's the Wrath of Khan. As we all know, all the even movies are the best ones. Pardon me. Now I do actually have a laserdisc of Star Trek 6. And that used to be my disc I used to put in to show off my sound system back in the day. At the start of the movie, the Klingon planet Praxis explodes, and this massive big THX wonderment of sound happens, and it is a really good movie, and it's a good movie all the way through. So there's all the laserdiscs. So moving on, something that I ordered, I can't remember basically when I ordered this sometime last year, and I have had a flurry of deliveries all of a sudden. So it looks like Australia Post is catching up, maybe the import thing, or maybe just deliveries in general have sped up. I've actually received I think it's 5 separate volumes of Wired magazine, which comes from the US, which means the normal standard post in the US is starting to come through, but 4 of them arrived on one day, and then a week later I got another one. I received 2 copies of my 2 Retro Gamer magazines, in the wrong order again, but they're only a day apart, and the other one arrived with the other bunch of Wired magazines. And I got this delivery, which was actually not sent that long ago. They were waiting to get parts and make batches. So the original thing that I ordered, that I have wanted for absolutely ages from my MSX, is a slot expander. Now this is especially important, sorry, still got a wire plugged in here, when you have something like this Powergraph 9990 card. Right, so that obviously takes up a slot. Then you get then you've got a ROM cartridge in your other slot, and then you're out of slots. So if you want to use any special sound card, like this OLP4 card that I have, you can't put it in because you've run out of slots. And also some of these can draw. You get a lot of these cards that can draw a lot of power. This actually has a power input. You have switches, so you can leave stuff plugged in and just turn them off and disable them. They've obviously done a 3D printed case, which is pretty good, and it's all pretty solid and tried. Only thing I haven't done is set up a power supply, so I've only had a bit of a play, and I have having a little difficulty getting my OLP4 card going. It's sort of working, but I'm getting a bit of distortion. I've never really tried this card. I've had it for a long time. I mean, I do have some other things. So this is a Dalso R1, something like 2000. Have I really had this since 2013? My goodness. Anyway, need to. But as I said, I haven't had a super expander. It's made it very hard to have a supporting game and all the other stuff. Thing. I've only been able to make do because my MSX 2 Plus machine has an MSX music chip in it, which is an FM chip, but it's not as good as an OLP one. Right, so this is the main item that I ordered, and obviously euros, postage was quite expensive. So I decided, well, what else did they have available? And I got this. Now I actually probably would have preferred, they had another sound card that allowed you to have the basically play the Sega Master System games on an MSX, because it has the sound processor that one has. But they didn't have any of those, but they had this one, which is really a new product called Darky. Right, and what it has dual PSG processors on them, and it's the slightly more advanced version of the original MSX processor. the AY8930, and it has 2 of them, so it can actually do proper dual channel sound. And there's quite a lot of, and there's an Spin FV1 FX processor. Now, one of my friends who posts, long time associates in the MSX community, posts some wonderful videos demonstrating what the sound cards can do. So as I said, I've only just got it, haven't had a lot of time. I need to make up a audio out jack of a specific format. It's a mini jack, but you've got to wire up the thing so I can get the proper stereo sound out. You can feed audio in as well. Once again, I need to really sit down and read the manual and have a bit of a play, and there's a couple of switches on it as potentially as well. So the actual, it's really good quality packaging. So you've got a manual, the foam insert, and they've gone to a lot of trouble with the shell. And you've got 2 jacks on the side. One's the audio in and the other one's the audio out. So I need to make up some cables for those. But it fits in, you know, and seems to work. I just need to play with it a bit more and even add some functions to basic so you can play with it. So once I've had a proper chance to play with it, and I will do a video just on playing around with MSX sound and everything like that, which will be fun to do. Okay, next. Right, also a Kickstarter I backed quite some time ago, and I have backed most of the games in the series. This is the Epic little box games, because they're quite little self-contained games. I've got most of them down at my holiday home. Now this is a dungeon crawler one called Tiny Epic Dungeons. As you can see, plastic wrap's still on, I haven't opened it yet, and it's a random dungeon adventure. You can play it solo as well, which is obviously pretty good for me because I don't always have people I can play this sort of games, but you can also play it in a group. So it's got 8 hero in this tiny box. It's got 8 hero miniatures, lots of tiles, and they're designed to be short playtime and everything like that. I'm just trying to see how many players it supports. I don't have my glasses. Anyway, there's lots and lots of stuff in there. Once again, haven't opened it to play with it, and also it had an expansion. I don't know whether they released this one before and I missed it, and the Kickstarter was just about expansion, and it's Tiny Epic Dungeon Stories. So these are more adventures and more heroes. So you've got another 8 heroes, miniatures, more wooden game pieces, story cards, goblin cards, loot cards, dungeon cards, hero mats, boss mats, and rulebook. So this will expand onto this. So actually, I'll take it down to the holiday home and read it first, and then give it a go. It sounds really cool and fun. I like that, and the tiny games are actually been quite good so far. So if you want to drag out a game and you don't want it to go on too long, those tiny games are actually highly recommended. And there's lots of different ones and different styles to suit your tastes. Now, one more thing. I went to a completely unrelated, but a garlic festival. So down here in Tasmania, garlic grows quite well. So also near my holiday home, they have this annual garlic festival, the first of which we went to just as the pandemic was starting 2 years ago. So we're going to be back for 2 years. We went back again this time. There were a couple of things missing. Obviously, we're getting used to the fact that it's you know, things get stopped and then they've got to try and restart themselves. But we had fun. And the only reason I'm raising this is because I bought, and this is related, and I actually like the sci-fi show Dark Matter. Pity that got cancelled. So I bought, so my one garlic thing that I bought, other than food on the day, was a black garlic oatmeal stout. And I actually quite like dark beers, stouts, and of course Guinness. They're my favourite ones. It was very popular. You could buy a 4-pack. They only had 2 left, so I got the last 2, and I bought their normal dark stout, which I haven't tried yet, and I have tried this black garlic oatmeal stout, and I really loved it. It was amazingly smooth, wonderful, nice taste, and very drinkable. So I'm just adding that in for a bit of variety. But I really enjoyed it. So made here in Tasmania, and also near where my holiday home is. So I'm actually going to go and try and get some more at some stage. So, as you can see, not a lot of video gaming stuff, but there was some retro computer and stuff like that. And, you know, we're into these video games. We all like sci-fi and fantasy stuff as well. So, Homebrew update this month. I really honestly have not had the chance to work on much at all. The only thing I have done is I have made, I wasn't going to mention the Ukraine-Russian situation, but because of that, so the original computer that got me going, other than, I mean, I started with TI 994, got a bit limited to that, and then bought my first Spectravideo SV318 computer, and that's where I started writing all my games for. Now, I've got a lot of information compiled. I've written a book about the system. I obviously wrote my book on programming in assembler for ColecoVision, and my intention was definitely to move on to the MSX and Spectravideo. I have actually previously started the MSX version, and these books I'm including full reference guides because a lot of the information for this system is not collated all together. Now, my original book was for the MSX and Spectravideo and covered programming in BASIC and Disk Basic and had a lot of useful information in it. So this new book teaches you how to program a game and gives you lots of use, all the BIOS calls with testing code. So there's lots of different versions of the BIOS code jumps, especially for the Spectravideo. The information is very hard to come by. And we started a discussion on one of the forums recently because how you bank switch when a cartridge in, some of the things that's up on the website is not actually quite correct, and we had a discussion, and sadly it was 7 years ago, and I can't believe so much time's gone by, where we actually worked it out amongst us. I have since gone and tracked down the original information where that thread led to and collated it, and thought, and basically I said, I can't leave this too much longer. I'm sorry, how does this go to the Ukraine and Russian situation? Because there are several people in Ukraine and both Russia that contribute to this forum, and I fear that if I leave it much longer to finish and write this book, some sources of information may disappear through no fault of their own. So I think I owe it to the community. Now, I'm going to make this book. I don't care if I only sell 5 copies or 10 copies. I just think it's important to make this book. Now, I haven't designed a cover or anything, but I have actually, with that spur of thing, actually completed a large percentage of the book, and I'm up to the all of the BIOS calls now. So I've got them all mapped out. I've got several different sources, so I have the descriptions, but I'm going to go through each of them, look at the source code in the ROM, and then write a sample set of code and test it to make sure that it works against each one of those BIOS calls. Because quite often some of them have a little, you know, throwaway description, or it might be like the MSX version that was later, but they're not always the case. And these things, like I even had one person responding saying, when we're talking about the bank switching, I'm saying, no, you're getting confused, you're talking about the MSX bank switching. The Spectravideo machine was different. It's one of the main differences between the original Spectravideo machine and the MSX that changed the way the memory bank switching was handled. Which is great, because it allows things such as this. So, I have made a really decent amount of progress in that book, and it will be now my next focus for my actual writing. But I will get back to that. Won't interfere with my actual coding of my retro games. I have done a little bit more work to the third title on my EA 70s arcade classics. So Lunar Rescue's finished, Depth Charge is finished, and the last one is Stunt Cycle. I've only probably spent another couple of hours on it, but I'm just working on the actual jump physics at the moment. It's not really a very complicated game, but obviously I'm trying to make it as fun as possible and probably muck around with how the controls work. And that one, all I have to do is put together a title screen, and it's ready to go. And that will be all for all 3 systems. So Spectravideo, MSX, and Coleco. I'm keeping all the versions going at the same time and ported and tested. Obviously, I sorted out the shell for the Spectravideos. I still need to make a new PCB board that fits that shell. I do have a limited supply of original Spectravideo PCBs. But I prefer to make a new one because I can use different types of ROM chips on it. They're easy to get. And that first release, it won't be a big ROM. And I'm going to release other titles. I'm going to release Cabin Fighter for the original Spectravideo and several others. Once again, do not expect to sell more than 10 copies. But that's the original system that I started out on, and it's the one that I have the most nostalgic feeling and that I need to support. And of course I'll also release the titles for the MSX as well. So yeah, that's where I'm at. So it was a pretty busy month, and yes, I can't promise I'll release a video every week, but I'm trying. I've got a bit of a bank of gameplays and things like that. I do have some more pickups. Once again, I got a whole heap of things in the last week, but they didn't fall into February, so I'm not including this video. So there is more stuff coming. I even have some parts to fix some arch-shaped machines, so there will be lots more coming when I get to time to make the videos. Alright, I hope everybody out there is well and safe and enjoying their retro and modern games. I'm Electric Adventures. Thanks to all my subscribers. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.